Welcome to the Onyx Path News. It is a new Monday and a new news episode. I am your host, Matthew Dawkins, and as always, I am delighted that you are here watching and hearing me, if everything visual and audible is actually functioning. This week, we will be talking a little about Don't Open the Gates, a new tasty bit for They Came From Beyond the Grave. This by spectacular author Kim Godwin. I don't always highlight the author. It's not strictly company policy. But I just wanted to say Kim Godwin has done a lot of work for us over the last year and change. And, well, probably much longer than that now, come to think of it. And as one of our, I guess, newer hires, I've just been endlessly impressed with Kim's range. So if Kim, you watch this, good work. Hopefully, you feel rewarded for it. But this book is just such a joy. Obviously, I have a certain amount of pride when it comes to They Came From Beyond the Grave products. I love to see these books, these games do well. And this tasty bit, which of course provides new tiles, new counters, new monsters, new plot hooks, all of that for They Came From Beyond the Grave is wonderful. It's creepy as well. And that's something we often get asked about with They Came From. I think there was a thread on the Onyx Path Discord last week. Someone was saying, can I run a serious game with They Came From? It's a question that pops up quite often. And the answer is absolutely yes. The system supports serious gameplay just as easily as it supports nonsense, farce, humor, satire, parody, anything like that. What I often point people back to the first Beneath the Sea actual play I recorded with Red Moon Role Playing, which is certainly more Lovecraftian, cosmic horror, but in the mouth of madness, that kind of thing, where the characters are effectively, they learn that they are the avatars for the great old ones. And so some of their quips are sort of gibberish, lots of consonants and apostrophes, but not a great deal of sense coming through in any of them. And certainly I have ran my share now of They Came From, so with Classified, Beyond the Grave, especially where things have taken a more serious tone. It tends to come through when an antagonist is doing something that's serious and threatening, and people don't feel like it's fit to mock. Now, what I obviously like to do as a story guide, as a director in They Came From's case, is speak to the players beforehand, gain I guess, a level, a gauge, work out exactly how much horror and how much humor you want out of a game of Beyond the Grave, as an example. And once you've actually ascertained that tone, you can kind of go from there. It's funny, we often speak about things like X cards, checklists, lines and veils, things that people need to agree to in advance of playing a game with serious elements. And sometimes just any game, these kinds of checks are always very good, especially if you're with players with whom you've never played before. But we rarely think of it as a tool for comedy. We've discussed this a little on the Onyx Pathcast, but it is very useful when running a comedy game to calculate, gauge what kind of humor people enjoy. Some people really like dry humor. Some people really like scatological humor. I happen to be someone who is not on the scatological side of the fence. So if I'm in a game where everyone is constantly suffering digestive issues, or the central humor is you've got to fight a great big pile of shit, to use what is it? Is it Ratchet and Clank? I think that has the. Oh no, it's Conker's Bad Fur Day. Uh, where one of your enemies is the almighty poo. That's funny for a moment, but I couldn't run an entire game or play an entire game like that. Now, some people can. Some people want airplane, naked gun style, boom, 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 joke, joke, joke. Some people want jokes to just leaven in to ease off the horror occasionally. And checking that kind of thing with your group in advance of actually running a game of They Came From is a very good idea. Now, this isn't the news. What am I talking about? I'm going into GM advice, but hopefully it is useful to you if you've never played a game of They Came From before, because it can help you find your tone. You can use the horror elements without using the comedy elements. You can use the espionage elements without using the comedy elements. You can use the fantasy elements in Cyclops' Cave without using the comedy elements if you want, or you can marry them to different degrees of intensity. So, Don't Open the Gates is the newest Beyond the Grave supplement. We have released quite a few now. It is interesting. Obviously, Onyx Path, by some fans, is perceived as largely World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness company. We have, of course, released a lot of Scion, Trinity, Pugmire. They Came From, among other games. And They Came From must stand among the healthiest of lines in terms of the sheer amount of content we've released for it with source books. There's a lot out there now. So that is always wonderful to see. Please do pick up a copy of Don't Open the Gates. It's a wonderful starter for you. And if you've not played The Haunting of Abbey and Priory, the Jumpstart yet, I always recommend that. It's such a fantastic source book, a wonderful introductory adventure. But this is equally so. So there you go. What else do we have to cover? Well, in terms of broader news, we will, of course, have a new crowdfunding campaign coming up very soon. It's a very exciting one, and it is tied to They Came From. I can give no more details, though we have been teasing various bits of information about it in the Monday blog. What kind of game is it? What kind of genre are we exploring? Now, someone pointed out last week that we mentioned the Wild West in our art notes section of the Monday meeting blog. Doesn't mean it's a Western game. I have been a bit cagey about that and said, you haven't quite got it if that's all you've read into it. So we will have to see. We will have to see. You will find out very, very soon. But you're going to want to get involved in this one because it's a campaign that will directly require your involvement. So we've got some comments here. Big Sarge says hello. Big Sarge, our I would say, I don't know who you are, Big Sarge. Maybe I do. Maybe you are a member of the in-house team and you never told me. But you seem to comment on almost every one of our videos, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you. Daniel Atson says They Came From Beyond the Grave is my absolute favorite of the They Came From books. Thank you very much. It does hold a place in my heart as well. Beneath the Sea, obviously, is very special to me because it is the first. Beyond the Grave is where I feel we applied a lot of the lessons we learned from Beneath the Sea, what people were using partly, and there was some rules streamlining. There was some different ways we started approaching tropes and things like that. Beyond the Grave feels like a refinement to my tastes, and this is by no means an objective measure of quality. And I say this with a lot of love for all of the They Came Froms. There are none that I dislike. I consider Classified as of time of recording, the sort of peak in terms of its translation of rules to game or to setting. And tonally, it feels like the strongest one to my tastes. But your tastes will vary, and so therefore it's always very interesting to see what people feel and how they feel differently about the different They Came Froms. Until very recently, I would have said mine was They Came From Camp Murder Lake, but Classified has inched that away. It may be because I've ran a lot more Classified recently. Who knows? Who knows? Nicholas says, looking for They Came From, my favorite is Cyclops' Cave. I'm glad, because Cyclops' Cave, I think, it's funny. I mean, this is becoming the They Came From episode. Don't mind that at all. I can speak about They Came From till the cows come home. They came from the shepherd's field. Does a shepherd keep cows? It's no. It's a funny thing because sometimes when people look at Beneath the Sea, their immediate question is, how can I run a They Came From where the aliens are invading from space? And I can quickly say, well, you just have them coming from up there instead of down there. You can you can still do 1950s B movie, sci-fi, farce, Red Scare stuff wherever the aliens are coming from. Beneath the Sea was just the title and the theme we went for. It's by no means affixed to maritime horror. But likewise, some people look at Cyclops' Cave and they think, well, I like sword and sorcery, or I like D&D. I don't really want to play the Voyages of Sinbad or Odysseus or what have you. And again, Cyclops' Cave, despite the name and the fantastic cover art, it actually has the broadest span of genres within it, or subgenres within it, covering everything from like 1930s classic epic fantasy through to the sort of muscle-bound, limited plot fantasy movies of the 1950s, all of those damn Hercules movies, 50s and 60s, all the way up to sword and sorcery. It includes lots of Conan, lots of Krull, lots of Hawk the Slayer, lots of Sword and the Sorcerer, lots of stuff like that, and kind of caps off with Hercules and Xena, the Legendary Journeys, or Warrior Princess, and so on. So there's a lot of earth you can till in Cyclops' Cave. If you like one genre over another, it is still a very usable game and it's perfectly applicable. Qualia gives a wave. Daniel Atson says, I wrote my own movie for They Came From Beyond the Grave titled Terror in the House of the Rising Sun, and it was such a blast to write, and I plan to run it for another Halloween game this year. Well, that's wonderful, Daniel. What I would recommend also is, as you may see in the video description below, we have a regular monthly Start.Playing session. It's our Onyx Path night over on Start.Playing, where you can run it for people who will just stroll up to your table. You can fix a price if you want that people need to pay to play. And with that done, you've already got your game written. People can roll up, take characters, and start playing. It's a wonderful system. Please do give that your consideration, because if it was a good game the first time you ran it, I'm sure it'll be great the second time. Mediocre Gamer, I'm sure there's nothing mediocre about you. Mediocre Gamer says hello. Nicholas says, I'm also looking forward to Aberrant, best at what I do. Aberrant is a game that does very well for us. A lot of people love Aberrant. Nicholas says, have you considered a Punk They Came From game, Matthew? Cyberpunk, Holy Punk, Solar Punk. It does seem you can attach punk to anything. I saw someone describe the tree punk genre recently, and I'm not entirely sure at this point whether the word punk has lost all meaning. I guess it's one of those things where if you repeat it enough times. But no, not yet, not immediately. That doesn't mean you won't see it soon. And I've got nothing against the genre of, let's say, cyberpunk, but it's never been one I've been drawn to as a media sponge. You know, there's an awful lot I will watch and read and play, and cyberpunk, for whatever reason, it doesn't appeal to my tastes. But the good news is there's a lot of creators at Onyx Path who do enjoy that kind of thing a lot. Take, for example, Michele Masala, who is currently developing They Came From the Witchford Academy, which is our wizarding schools they came from, not just Harry Potter. And in fact, I would say almost definitely not just Harry Potter. And Michele has some tastes that are set the same as mine and others that are wildly divergent. And so if we have a developer who gets the tone for They Came From, that's what I think is often important and sometimes missed by some people who may think, I want to work on They Came From, and then they realize they don't actually have the voice for it. And it's a funny, undefinable aspect of a creator that you need a voice for something. Michele is one of those creators that definitely gets the They Came From voice. So there's lots of people who, of course, I work with who may well be able to handle something like a They Came From Neo City or something like that, but you'll have to wait and see. So anyway, last thing. You only have 1 week left to enter your media into our competition to win $150 worth of games. There is the link below for creator forms. If you are completely unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, all last month people were creating videos on platforms like TikTok and YouTube, little 10-second, 20-second vignettes where they were dressing up as their character, where they were doing a lip sync thing that related in some way to one of our games, where they were just doing all the various things that lots of people do with these short mediums. And by short mediums, I don't mean vertically challenged spiritualists. And with that, you can basically create your media, send us a link to it via the Google form below. We will review it, and if we feel it is the most entertaining out of all of the ones that have been submitted, you will win $150 worth of games. That's right, $150 just for, let's say, 15 seconds work. Couldn't be easier. You've only got 1 week left. 1 week left to do that. Your quality of work can be all over the place. Do it for fun. You never know what might entertain people. So please do that. And I see Nicholas has hoved in with the answer to Mediocre Gamer about Trinity Continuum Anima being a great cyberpunk game that we have worked on. It definitely has cyberpunk elements. It's a great game to go for if that's the kind of thing you're looking for. So with that said, we will of course be releasing a new book this Wednesday. We release something new every single Wednesday. Not always books, I should say. Sometimes merchandise, sometimes things like journals, sometimes things like t-shirts. But we will be releasing something new every Wednesday, just as we always have. And we are approaching fast Onyx PathCon in June. That will be over, I think, my birthday weekend. So I will be busy on my birthday, but I'll be busy serving people like you. I will also be running a session of the World Below. There will be lots of games being run, of course, and panels too. If you have not been keeping up with the World Below blog, it is posted every single Thursday on the onyxpath.com. We have fed you more and more bits and pieces, tasty morsels of the World Below every single Thursday, so you can see more and more of this game, and it's getting some enthusiasm. I'd love to see more of it. So do post in the comments the parts of the World Below you want to see more of. Is it more of the setting, more of the system? What am I playing? What am I fighting? What is the one we most recently covered on Thursday? I appreciate this is a long news video, is what do I do? What do you do in the World Below? Well, that blog tells you. But I will also be starting World Below specific videos very soon. I imagine I'm going to be doing them on my channel, The Gentleman Gamer. I might do a gentleman's guide to the World Below. We'll have to see. It's been a long time since I've worn a suit. But it feels like it could be an appropriate time to do so. So, yeah, do check that out. And thank you so much, as always, for watching. I hope this has been insightful, less newsy, more they came from rambly, but it might be an interesting peek behind the curtain. Who knows? So, do pick up. Don't open the gates. It's wonderful. It's low cost. It's by a talented creator, and we very much appreciate your support of They Came From Beyond the Grave. And until next time, see you then. Bye-bye.